The wind howled between the snowy peaks, and the winter was far too long. In the ruthless logic of the steppe, a useless mouth is a dead weight that condemns the tribe. He could still see his father's eyes. Not hateful, but extinguished, as if the boy was already a ghost. Famine had triumphed over the bonds of blood. For days, he wandered, surviving on frozen carcasses disputed with the crows. As his strength failed him, massive silhouettes tore through the white curtain of the blizzard. Gothic raiders, clad in wolf skins and boiled leather. The boy did not flee. He collapsed, his limbs heavy as lead. He woke to a gentle warmth. A veteran warrior reached out a calloused hand to see if he still breathed. In a surge of wild instinct, the boy lunged, teeth snapping at the air.
Me is Sunsara. Akha Bais had to bears.
The boy did not lower his eyes. He would not cry. He would not beg. In him, the Goths saw what they prized above all, a will that even death could not break. To them, he was no longer a dying child, but a promise of strength. Thus began his second birth. The first years were a relentless battle. The boy, now called Mryd, had to learn everything: their Germanic tongue, their rites of blood, and the merciless codes of the steppe. To earn his place by the fire, he learned to read the snow. On horseback, an ancient memory surfaced, the blood of his Sarmatian ancestors. He fell, he rose, refusing to show pain. Soon, he was one with his mount. He understood that in this world, pity was a terminal illness.
Show us if you have blood in your veins, Sarmatian. If you cannot strike, you are useless.
He does not fight like a man. He fights like a fox. Letting Narisan, Mryd, you have earned your salt.
That night, he sat by the great central hearth. He had earned his place. But in his eyes, one could already see. He would not be content with just a place for long. Years passed, erasing the memory of the abandoned child. At 20, Mryd had molded himself into the bronze and iron of the clan. Where the Goths sought fury, he sought the mechanics of combat. The duel with Hadric was not about an insult, but a seat at the vanguard. Hadric was a veteran who believed that a shield was only meant for parrying. He could not stomach a foreigner leading his line.
You ride like us, Sarmatian, but you do not have the weight of a Goth in the fray.
Say it. Tell me I do not belong here.
He did not deliver the killing blow. By leaving Hadric alive and crippled, he condemned him to insignificance. For the Goths, war was a brutal celebration. For Mryd, it was a surgical operation. He did not strike out of anger. He struck to remove an obstacle. Each life taken was a rapid calculation. Neither hate nor joy, just terrifying efficiency. He felt no moral disgust, but a form of intellectual contempt. Why destroy what one could possess? He realized then that he was not like them. He was not a barbarian among barbarians. He was a predator surrounded by scavengers. Alwina had the vivacity of a falcon. She was no passive trophy, but a leader's daughter with a gaze as sharp as steel. While others looked away, she measured him. She searched for the flaw beneath the warrior's armor.
You spend more time with your steel than with the living.
Neglected steel betrays its master.
Too heavy at the tip. You win by speed, Mryd. Why carry a weight that slows you down?
She was a fortress he could not take by force. To have her, he could not dominate. He would have to convince. For the first time, he no longer thought of victory, but of recognition. An alliance with the chief's lineage would turn the stranger into a pillar of the clan. But such a union was not decided by the sword alone.
Respect the customs.
The elder warned.
You must first praise his horses.
Mryd, I have watched every beast of this clan, but no horse carries its head with as much nobility as those of your line.
A horse of noble blood will not be ridden by just anyone. My lineage requires a firm hand but a just heart.
A chief's horse knows its master's will before the reins even move. It carries the destiny of the clan.
The negotiations, the bride price, the cattle, the promises, were only distant noise. He had passed the test. He had not only bought an alliance, he had begun to tame the only being that truly mattered to him. The wedding was celebrated in the year 61. For a week, mead and wine flowed like rivers. Mryd, usually so guarded, found himself savoring the truce. In Alvina's laughter, he found a promise of peace he had never known. The first years were golden. Alwina was his equal, his counsel. Returning from raids, her presence was a balm. They shared more than their bed. They forged plans, strategizing under the stars. She was the only one to whom he confided his doubts. But the seasons passed, and silence settled in their home. No child came. Murmurs began to creep in the shadows. A warrior without an heir is a tree without roots. Women avoided Alwina, fearing her barrenness. Shamans were consulted, but Alvina's womb remained desperately flat. He watched his men teaching their sons to hold a bow, and bitterness settled in his heart. A dark thought grew within him. Was destiny denying him an heir to prepare him for a greater, more solitary path? A seed of darkness was planted. At 38, Mryd was no longer just a warrior. He was a warlord whose name crossed the steppes like a warning. Under his banner, victory was not a hope, it was a mathematical certainty. He had forged the Goths into a disciplined war machine. One shadow remained, the Teutons. Hidden in dark forests and marshes, they refused his hegemony. To Mryd, they were an insult to his logic of power. Until they were broken, his work would remain unfinished. But destiny was waiting for him, at the turn of a nameless skirmish. The winter was coming, but war knew no season. Mryd hunted the Teutons with a methodical obsession. Victory was within reach, until time itself seemed to freeze. 2 arrows tore through his lungs. The warlord fell from his saddle into the frozen mud. A cold peace extinguished the cries of battle. Then, nothingness. He should have been dead. Around him, the battlefield was a silent charnel house. His skin was smooth, intact, as if the iron had never bitten his flesh. A primal terror seized him.
What am I?
He had lost his people, his glory, and his life, in a single night. For weeks, he wandered like a shadow. He was no longer Mryd the leader, he was a blasphemy. He turned his back on his past and headed east, where no one knew his name. His body now ignored the laws of nature. Wounds closed in heartbeats, and fatigue had no hold on him. In a frontier city of the Parthian Empire, it happened. A dull vibration, and an electric buzz deep in his bones. He thought his mind was breaking, or that death had finally come to claim him.
You are young. The first time you think you're going mad.
Who are you? What was that?
I am Ahasuerus. Your blood is warning you. A kin is near. Come. You have much to learn if you want to keep your head on your shoulders.
Mryd followed him. For the first time since he had awakened among the dead, he no longer felt like a solitary monster. In the silence of the tent, the truth was unveiled.
You are immortal. Mryd time can no longer touch you. But there is one way to tear us from this world. The head. It must be separated from the body.
And so we hunt each other? If I take their strength, I will be untouchable.
The game has lasted for thousands of years. Learn to carry your immortality first. You have all the time in the world to die.
Time had no more grip on him. He was immortal, but with this gift came a terrible price, a life of shadows, and a hunt that would last for millennia. The days that followed were a succession of necessary humiliations. Ahasuerus was not just a warrior, he was a strategist. He taught not only the steel, but also the silence and the patience.
A duel against one of our own is like nothing you have ever lived through. It is not power that decides our fate, but the geometry of error. You are strong, but you are predictable. Another than I would not have waited for you to rise.
For the first time, he realized that force was only a tool. He was learning, at last, that to be a master of the game, he had to stop being a wolf and become an architect. He knew his lessons. Strike when the enemy is vulnerable. He crept into the shadows, his sword a cold breath of wind. But the master was never truly asleep.
You are gifted, but you are stupid. Go. Do what you will with your eternity. But remember, strength alone builds nothing. It only destroys.
He left behind his past, his name, the man he had been. He would no longer be Mryd. He would be Darius, in honor of the great Persian kings. A name for a builder of empires. A man who would not just survive, but who would carve history in his own image. Darius took hold of the ancient world like a master of the board. From Rome to Greece, he learned that laws were chains and virtue was a mask for the weak. He ceased to see men as equals. They were but ephemerals, instruments in his design. He did not seek loyalty, but absolute efficiency. His name was whispered with dread in the palaces. He was the warlord without a country, leaving only ashes and death in his wake. He had become what Ahasuerus feared most, a warrior god who had forgotten the price of a human life. In the wild foothills of the Alps, the electric pulse returned. Darius was no longer the hunter, but the prey. He drew his enemy into the roar of a waterfall, where the sound of the world died away.
A monkey dressed as an emperor. You still smell of barbarian mud.
The quickening. It was not a memory, but a surge of pure tactical knowledge. Centuries of hatred and savage art flooded his mind. He was no longer just a man who refused to die. He had become a predator at the peak of his own eternity. Amidst the ruins of a nameless farm, Darius felt it. A faint shiver in his bones. This man was not a mere farmer, he was a pre-immortal. A potential brother in blood.
Welcome among us. You are immortal now. Follow me if you want to understand, or stay here and wait for others to finish the job.
He renamed him Grayson. Together, they became a dark legend. Darius was the conqueror, Grayson his shadow. They did not learn the wisdom of Ahasuerus, but the coldness of a world where only predators survive. Europe began to tremble at the mere echo of their names.